repower, power. What's the term I'm looking for? Reboot and get some things done. It's Friday. My sons are coming over. They're all gonna be playing Monster Hunter. It's a board game, and it's also a video game. But they have a board game that they backed on Kickstarter, and so they've got a lot of monsters. I actually painted one of these monsters. If you want to know, let's go to Active Minds Games on Instagram. I think it's Instagram, or maybe it's TikTok. I don't know. I can't remember where I put it. I should put it on both. Who knows? But if you were curious what one of the monsters I painted, it was a giant lizard character. And I don't know the game, so I couldn't tell you what he was called or what his real name was. But I did paint it for him. He's got one painted figure in that game. The rest of them are unpainted. Maybe I'll take another one of his figures and paint at some point. But anyway, I was, those Tazion emails that I logged into never showed up, but I did another login for my personal email and it worked just fine. So yeah, I don't know why that is. They're just just never showed up here. I see this is confirm your sign up, but that was April 25th. That was yesterday. And that was also not sent to this. This is, like I said, a filter I use in but I tried to send one directly to my Tazion Gmail, and it never showed up. I did twice, and it never showed up. But then I did one for my personal email, and it worked just fine. I got that email, and all is good, sort of. I mean, like I said, I haven't gotten around to programming this last bit, which is the callback. And so, like I said, this is coming from NextJS. And so they're actually starting to create these routes. So basically what this next page is going to be a callback page. So it's going to be under auth because it's all part of the same auth process. So let's create a new folder here. Now what I did learn this. I didn't know you could do this because he doesn't do it this way. He adds a folder and then he adds a file. But you can actually cheat here and just say add file. Actually, let's see. I'm going to see if I can do this. Okay, so let's say add folder. But I'm going to cheat. So I'm going to call it callback. And I also want a file called route.js. And voila. I now have a folder called callback. It didn't work. I saw somebody do this. I don't know how he did it. Where he created a file just like this. But what this ended up doing was creating... Oh, no. This does work. Okay. So here's the thing that this does, which is interesting. If it's the only file in the folder, not counting page, it does it this way. So this is actually the full route to callback. If I actually wanted another folder in here, say I wanted to add a page to this, I could actually add another value. If I add another page, see route.js, oh, it didn't work. Well, I'll be danged. Okay, so let's try something else. Maybe I need to do a file. I'm gonna do this because I'm curious if this works. Because I saw another stream. Let's try. I was watching another YouTuber do this. Maybe it's add a file. And if I go here and say callback / route.js. There you go. That's how you do it. So add a file. You can put the folder that it's going to be in first, / route.js, and it'll create the file. So you can do both at one step. I mean, it's a small thing, but hey, it's kind of cool. I mean, if you want to do that. Especially if you know, like, you're just going to do the usual sign up page.jx. I could create folder / page.jx, and it'll just do both. Rather than you having to add file, add folder, blah, blah, blah. You just do one. So, but start at the lowest point, because if you say folder, it'll just call the second one a folder as well. Anyway, so one of the things you have to do, this little tidbit export default function. We're going to do a get. Now this is a JS. This is just a standard it's JavaScript. And we're going to go ahead and put these in here. Now again, I am not teaching this. You may be learning something, but I am not a great reference yet on how to do any of this because I am just learning the process. In fact, oops, totally did that wrong. Look at that, see? Return. Actually, this is not supposed to be a return. That's fine. This is just supposed to be just a constant. That's all I need. It's a GET request. That's all it is, man. It's not supposed to be anything fancy-pantsy. Okay, so there's probably more to this because I haven't gone through the whole thing. So bear with me while I kind of see. This is the guy who's doing this.
That's going to be the code search parameter that Supabase gives to us on this URL. So we'll say const code is equal to url.searchparams.get, which is a function. And then the name of the search parameter we want goes inside this function as an argument, which is code. So now we have that code, which proves the user has verified their email address. We now need to use that code to start a new session for the user and automatically
hey, what did I do?
To the application.
Oh, nothing. Okay, never mind.
But first up, we only want to do this if a code.
Oh, I see what happened here. Hold on. I do this a lot where I'm going through this process, and I'll put in whatever that's just supposed to get. There you go. URL search param search code. So, and that's all part of my problem. When you do, well, I will say this: if you type in the wrong thing at any given time, that's when everything can suddenly start popping up different things because it's all what do you call it? Action sensitive. So if you say minus, it's going to go, oh, we're looking for a value, and it's trying to find things that are values because it's going to think you're trying to subtract code from what or value from code. So it's context sensitive. That's what I meant. So whatever's going on in your context is going to be what it's trying to show. So keep that in mind. You're going to get weird stuff if you typo and don't see that you're typoing. I was noticing, who was it? It's like if you're a touch typist and you're copying something, you'll make more errors. Because if you're a true touch typist, now there are people who are, okay, let me rephrase that. If you're a true touch typist and you're copying something, you'll make errors because you may not notice that you made an error and you'll be typing along. And the problem is with code, when you do that, is this is totally off in the weeds again. But with code, when you do stuff like that, what you end up doing is there's a lot of things that are popping up. You've got a lot of this IntelliSense going on trying to help you. So it adds parentheses, adds quotes, adds spaces, and a lot of times different things will pop in there while you're typing that will actually screw up your typing. Especially if you make any kind of typo at all on your own, but it'll also screw up your typing because you're like, yo, you put a quote in, oh, I need to put another quote in. Oh, it already had a quote in there, so now you've put two quotes in there, and it's going to go, and everything goes wonky, and at that point, everything you type is going to be nonsense. So you're going to have to go back, and you'll be like, oh, I got to take out these double quotes and extra parens, and you have to start learning how the IntelliSense responds to your typing. So as time goes on, you're like, okay, I know this put in a double quote, so I can skip over and put the paren, or I can go ahead and go to the next line, and it'll just automatically. So be careful, though, because sometimes when you're doing that, you hit enter, and it puts your quotes and your paren on the next line. And now you've got a quote and a paren separating all your stuff. So check back every now and then. Don't type too much stuff when you're typing a touch typist. And then there's those people who type pretty fast. I saw somebody on YouTube. I was watching him, and he types really fast. He was showing you though, so he wasn't copying anything. But when he typed really fast, but he looked at the keys. So he wasn't a true touch typist. I call a touch typist as somebody who doesn't ever have to look at the keyboard to type. And the better touch typists make a lot less mistakes. Like the problem with coding is I have to do a lot of the number stuff. So I tend to occasionally miss the number or where my keyboard has the equal sign or whatever, and I'll push buttons, and sometimes I know where they are approximately, and so it's a 50-50 shot that my fingers will hit it. And that's why I hit minus, because maybe I hit the minus was next to the equal sign. My finger didn't stretch far enough over. So that whole numbers row is hit or miss for me. So although I'm a touch typist and everything else, I might be zipping along. As soon as I hit that touch, the wrong button, things go out of whack. So, see, this is what happens to me when I'm coding. I start talking, and I do this even when you're not there. I'm like, I'll get distracted by strange things, off the beaten path. It doesn't happen to me all the time. I mean, obviously when I'm focused on a task, but sometimes it's like, oh, I got to figure out how to do this auth, and then I go down the weeds of how does auth work in Superbase, and so I'm learning stuff and I'm going off. So in the sense that when I'm not streaming, I'm not talking about things like the keyboard, but I am going down rabbit holes and trying to learn how different types of code or different types of things work with my code. And then I go, well, what's the difference between TypeScript and JavaScript? And I'll start looking at comparisons and what's going on. So my mind is taking in all of the wrappings of learning this stuff. And so it does distract me from the actual class focus. But at the same time, it's growing my understanding of how everything works. So it's not necessarily bad, but it is still focus on work. But it does tend to, while I'm learning, tends to create a bigger ball than the small pinpoint that I'm trying to focus on. Back to task.
So first, we could say if code, so if it has a value, then do something. And then if not, we don't want to try and start a session for the user. So now, inside of this if statement, we can communicate with Superbase. And remember, whenever we need to communicate with Superbase, we need that instance of the Superbase object. We got that inside the client component using the create client component client function. But this time, we're not in a client component, we're in a route handler. So this time, we use a function called create route handler client. And that's used to connect to Superbase from a next route handler. But this time, because the route handler function runs on the server, this Superbase function doesn't have direct access to the cookies in the browser to get any auth cookie it needs. So to get the cookies in a route handler, we can use the next cookies function, which allows us to access all of the site cookies.
Okay, so this is going to be a little bit more interesting. So you have to import, and say I'm a little wary now because I don't know which items are actually valid in this because Superbase went and changed stuff. And so it's possible that, like, for example, see, this is part of the Superbase auth helpers, which is, again, the deprecated form of this stuff. So now I have to go and try to figure out what the difference is in Superbase SSR. I don't know. I mean, so if I go here and so we got this Superbase SSR. This just talks about this. So let's go. I got to figure out how to do this in the current code. Again, I'm trying to do this, creating a client, email auth with PKCE flow, server-side rendering, migrating, policies go. Okay, so maybe it's this one, email auth. Let's see, what does this do? Follow this link, invite user template, magic link template. Don't know what that is. Change email address template, reset password template, confirm sign up. Okay, so confirm your sign up, follow this link, blah, blah. Update email templates with URL for API endpoint. Create server client. See, I don't know. Native login. So now this is where I'm trying to learn how to do this using using the current. See, this is the current. This is the new version of stuff. The not using the helpers, which it tells you don't use the helpers. It says, if you can help it, which I can because I'm learning, and there's no point in doing something that's deprecated already. Why would I want to learn the deprecated stuff? I mean, granted, I might go somewhere and they're using the deprecated stuff, but at least I know how to do the new stuff. Maybe it might behoove me to help them upgrade their code to the newer stuff if I'm at a place that does that. So if I know how to do the newer, I'm like, oh, well, I've done this with the newer stuff. Let me upgrade this for you. You know, I mean, I know I could probably figure it out because I've done it. I've learned how to do it. So rather than learning how to do old stuff, it's better to know how to do the new stuff and possibly be able to help companies that I happen to be with do the new stuff. Why learn old? You learn old, and you're just as lost as they are if they haven't got somebody who's learned how to do the new stuff. That's one of the problems with a lot of applications that you go into is the personnel has been using that code base or that version of applications code for years, maybe, you know, depending how long they've been at the company. And so as a new employee, you want to be able to go in there and know how to figure out the old stuff, but also it'd be great to be able to say, hey, well, I know how to do it the new way. Let's convert it. I can do this for you or help do it. And you're contributing right away, right? Because you're helping bring their code up to play. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out how they're doing this because create route handler client is using the old logic. So I'm trying to figure out how this is working. Okay, so create browser client, authentication using email and password. So this is where I was just at. So I'm trying to figure out how create route handler client. What? Superbase SSR. So I did look for this in the right place. Email verification. See, this is not as good as NextJS. Superbase has very slight documentations. The NextJS documentation is excellent. Create route handler client. See, creating a Superbase client for SSR. Okay, well, let's try that. Isn't that where I was just a second ago? This is, maybe it's create browser client. Maybe that's what I want. No, this is the function that actually is just going to, well, maybe it is this one. It could very well be because we're doing a different kind of client. Yeah, it took me to the same place. Just a different part of the same page. See, and this used a TypeScript, which throws me off. Server action. Server. Okay, so get server side props. I don't want server side. All right, well, let's just try this one. I mean, let's see what it does. Yeah, let's see what this does. So I'm going to try to do his thing, or this thing. And we're going to go like this. Stop it. And if it's wrong, I'm sure something will pop up and tell me. Such is the way it goes sometimes. Let's go back and run the code. What this is going to do is simply the same thing I'm doing here on my Superbase Get client. So when I go to the page sign up, we have this. And I'm going to do basically the same thing, except I'm going to take a little bit of a shortcut this time. I'm not going to do the consts. So I'm going to go in here, and we'll see if this works. I'm going to go in here, and we're just going to pass them straight through to it, see what happens. That means taking these guys out. And then we can take these off because I don't think that's going to matter. Do I need a comma this? I do. All right. Okay, so that sort of worked, or I mean, it's visually working, it's compilely working. We'll see what happens. But I'm going to not. I don't believe that his idea works here. Oops. Dang it. All right, let's try that again. Control C. Control V. Okay. And if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. But we won't know until I try, right?
Cookies. So we import cookies from next/headers, and then as an argument in the superbase function, we can just pass an object and then pass in the cookies into that object. So once we've done that, we can then say await superbase.auth to access the auth service, and then use a method called exchange code for session.
Yeah, I could be wrong because this is doing something totally different from what I thought. I thought he was just creating another form of a browser client. But it's not this one. See, Superbase auth helpers, it's not that. So whatever I'm getting, it has to be the equivalent. All right, let's try it. This is why. All right, let's put this code in. Okay, so we're going to go back and do the same search I did before. Create route browser client. Let's just type Superbase. Nothing special. Superbase. Let's see what that says. So if I go here, Superbase auth with NextJS app router. All right, let's look at that one. Maybe it's the app router thing I need to see. The auth helpers package has been replaced by Superbase SSR package. We recommend setting up auth for your NextJS with Superbase SSR instead. See the auth guide. So here I am going through the auth guide. Write utility functions to create Superbase. See, they do the create browser client, right? And there's a client and the server. The server's got more junk going on. Oh, that does have cookies. Look at that. This one looks a little bit more like the one that that's trying to be accomplished over here. Now he calls it server.ts. I'm doing route.js. But maybe no, he's not doing, he looks like he's doing it as a server component, so maybe that's fine. What does the cookie object do? So it can read, right? Okay, so yeah, so it's using the cookies. But this is actually using the cookies object. So whatever he's doing is something similar to this. And he is doing a get in here too. This looks a lot more long-winded though, huh? I mean, if you really look at it. Of course, I don't know, this may not be done and he might just be going through it. Let's stop and wait for a minute. Let's see what it is.
We pass in the code that we have as an argument. So this reaches out to Superbase, passes them that code, and then Superbase then returns to us a new user session using the cookie.
Let's see, is it doing the same thing? Set name session. This doesn't really do a whole lot. Cookie options, set, catch. Set method was called from server component. This can be ignored if you have middleware refreshing user sessions. Oh, and by the way, this exclamations, I learned that's TypeScript. If you don't put the TypeScript, if you're not using TypeScript, you don't need the exclamations. That's one of the things I'm learning that's different from JavaScript and TypeScript.
So once this is complete, the user is now technically logged in to the application automatically. So now at the bottom of the handler, we can just return a next response, which will be a redirect back to a page in our application. So I could say return next response, and remember we need to make sure that next response is imported as well, and then use a method on that called redirect to redirect the user, and then we pass in where we want to redirect them to.
Dashboard.
So that's going to be url.origin.
All right.
That says go to the base address of this URL.
Right, which will be the dashboard.
That's localhost, but in production, it would be whatever the base web address is. Okay? And that.
So that looks pretty basic. Basically, it's checking basically basic. All right. So what this is going to do is it's going to, as he says, it's going to get the cookies. It's going to get the session, log you in with that session, and then redirect you to the home page as logged in person. So the question is, how does the new code do the same thing? Because we want the same basic effect, right? Let's look at the endpoint here. Create route handler, route.js. Okay, so this is the route handler part of it, right? So let's look at the way that looks, because I'm trying to do the route right now. That's what I'm working on. So this is the route, and they do TypeScript, but I'm doing JS. Email opt type. They have HJS, NextJS, next response, next request, which I do believe he mentioned he had set up there as next request, right? Next request was on here. Yeah, well, he has next response on here. And then he does a redirect off of it. So see, they do share some of the same objects, but they're not all. He's just getting the next response. He's not getting the request. But ultimately, I don't know why we have this email auth type. That must be part of the new process. He does have the create client, which is coming from wherever that is. At util superbase. Now, I'm not sure that these actually aren't files, because like you got route, page, login, actions. Since Superbase is being called from an action, use the client defined in. So hopefully the @ is pulling it from their own object model and not from mine, because I don't actually have those files. Create client. All right, let's continue onward. I think this is what I'm looking for. This is the route stuff that it's currently working, and basically it's what he's doing. I don't know that I need to do all this stuff, but it does appear that there's a lot going on, right? Because this is considerably different from the simple process that was done here. He only does basically, what, 10 lines of code here? 3, 4, 5, 6, plus the imports. It's not much. And so this is where we're trying to convert his simple stuff into what looks like a much more complicated steps, although this has some comments in it. This does have return next response redirect, and then where we're redirecting to. So I can do that. Redirect to path name. He's just creating whatever this redirect is. So that's not necessarily an issue. But I don't know what this token hash. What token hash? Is it defined as a constant? It is up here. Search params. Token hash. Get, and then search params, get type, get next, as email OTP type. So yeah, he's doing a number. This does Superbase does what looks like a considerably more complicated process now from this somewhat more simple. So I don't know if it's because of the way the helpers work. One of the reasons why they said they went away from the helper process is because it was trying to assume certain things, which made it non-functional or more difficult to function in other code bases. So they wanted it to be more wrapped up so that whatever you're typing can be utilized handling its own stuff on the back end. But in that sense, it's handing more to you to set up. But when you pass in the stuff, it can do its own thing. That's the logic that they used for why they refactored after such a short period of time on how they were using this, moving to this different version of JS or whatever. So constant redirect to, he didn't actually do any of that. So I am actually going to see, there's this code search params. Oh, they do have search params get. And is that see search params? They have type, get, type, and next. Interesting. You know, I'm going to, let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and pull these in. I'm going to basically copy this, but try to do it like that. So, or shall I say, I'm going to copy this page and try to do it like this code. So let's try it. The whole point is to try to mimic what the class is trying to do with the new logic. So we'll put in these imports. I'm going to just do that. Okay, so we got the right logics here. Now, as you notice, this one is not creating a client object, so it's going to be interesting to see how we're supposed to do this without creating the client logic. It does have this create client, but does it actually call the create client? Oh, there it is, create client. All right, so the reason that this works is because they created this component up here, I think. Yeah, they have this create client component, but it's on the server. So yeah. And I always said that, so they use the same create client. They have it on both the server and the, they have a server version and a client version. Obviously, the client version is much simpler. And I believe I'm trying to decide how I want to do this. That's basically what it comes down to. Trying to decide what's the way to do this. Because there's only one route.js. It only has the one. So there's not like a middle tier. So like this one has the TypeScript versions. And then this one, that's the login. And then this one has both a TypeScript and I don't know, whatever that one's supposed to be, why that one's different. I don't know. It doesn't really say. So yeah, so this is interesting. Anytime you try to go off the beaten path of what the teacher is teaching, you're gonna find yourself kind of going, what did I do? So, and this is server. So really, if I want to create the client, I'm going to just go like this. Yes, I know. And he's got search params code. I don't know why. Get code. But this is essentially what that's this guy, right? So I basically put everything in that is this and how it matches to. Now, these things like type are probably TypeScript, as in I probably don't need those. I'm guessing I don't need those. I think I'm going to take those out. And I think that there's a fair amount of alterations, but in the same way that this says request, see it says request, next request. I don't think I need this. This let's take that out. I'm going to gamble. I don't need this because again, I think it's just the way it's being called, and that's what it's going to come down to. Could be wrong. Could be wrong, but we're going to find out. I'm simplifying based on the logic of the fact that I'm trying to convert from what would be TypeScript into this. So we have constant type equals search param code type. I don't know why we have this as email OTP type, but we are going to get rid of that too. Nope. Maybe I don't need to do this. Let's leave this off. I'm trying to determine what it is this is complaining about. Can only be used in TypeScript files. Type assertion. See, that's not even. All right, let's do this. I don't know what this next $sign nonsense is either. But I do know, so I'm guessing this is what happens when you're trying to convert something and you don't exactly understand why it's different or how it's different or what is TypeScript and what is JavaScript. That's what I'm trying to calculate here, because they don't give you the JavaScript equivalent. They give you only TypeScript and you have to figure out the equivalent, which is really annoying. It's the Superbase documentation you see here does have React, but it doesn't give you this. It doesn't give you the route part. So if I go to React, there's nothing here but terminal and the index, and that's it. It's all you got. And then it says start it up. It's like that's just the login. They don't even tell me how to handle their email or to sign someone up. It's not a complete piece of information. It is JavaScript, yay, but it doesn't show you whether or not your code is right or what you're looking at. It says, hey, use this instead, but we're not going to tell you how to do it the full way with JavaScript. We're just going to give you the tiny little bits that maybe they don't know how to do it the whole way. I don't know. And then when you go back to next, it immediately has everything in TypeScript again. And that's kind of what I'm looking at. So I'm trying to convert TypeScript to JavaScript. And there are just things that are weird and different, and I don't know for sure. So let's see. I've got about 8 minutes left. It's Friday. I stop working at 5. So this is you get to watch me learn, but I'm only going to let you watch me learn until 5, and then I'm going to play games or something else, do something else. And if you want to help, feel free to jump in and go, hey, Ken, this is how you do this, because I'm an expert and you are obviously not. And I'll be saying, thank you, sir. Thank you. But, oh, master, show me the magic tricks. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. I don't know what this is. I feel like I don't need it. I'm really just trying to mimic what he's got. So if I can limit what I have to just what he has, he's got sim to get code. I am going to go ahead. I don't know what his is doing. We're going to go const. And I'm going to add code just like he has. Equals. And then we're going to go URL dot. I might not have to do. Let's do this. It doesn't look like search params dot get code. I feel like search params is going to be search params no matter what. So why would I have to type URL dot? I don't know. Maybe that's a thing that his thing required. But you can see this doesn't have the cookies thing either. So I don't know. I'm kind of confused on what I'm doing here, because this JavaScript here doesn't do cookies. But something up here did. Is it this one? Yeah, that's cookie options. I have a feeling that there is a piece in here that that his logic doesn't account for, like this whole middleware piece. And I think this is where things are getting kind of pulled out of sync. So if I'm going to do this, I may have to add this middleware stuff. I don't know what it's doing. File at the root of your project. Since server components can't write cookies, you need middleware to refresh expired auth tokens and store them. The middleware is responsible for refreshing the auth token by calling Superbase authenticate user, passing the refreshed auth token to server components so they don't attempt to refresh the same token themselves. This is accomplished with the request.cookie set. Passing the refreshed auth token to the browser so it replaces the old token. This is accomplished with response.cookie set. Copy the middleware code for your app. Add a matcher so the middleware doesn't run on routes that don't access Superbase. When protecting pages, the server gets the user session. Always use Superbase.authGetUser to protect pages and user data. Never trust get session. So, okay, so that's interesting. I have a feeling that this is just the different way to do it. And the way he's teaching is just no longer the valid way to do it. That's what I'm thinking is happening. And this is where I would go to other YouTube people, find something current, find something somewhere that someone actually did that's using current processes. Problem is, I've looked at those and they're all using TypeScript, and I'm trying to do this with React. And it's not that I have anything against TypeScript. It's just that so many of these things, like he's teaching using JavaScript and React and NextJS via JavaScript and JSX. But when you go look at a lot of the lessons out there, people are using NextJS. Some are using different versions of auth. They're not using all Superbase. It's like everything. There's so many combinations out there of things that people are doing, and they all have their goods and bads, and everybody's got a reason for using one thing or the other. And it really makes it challenging because there's not a specific, hey, this is how you do it with the things I want to do it. And there's not even a clear way to categorize that, right? So like, say you wanted to filter everything that's React. And then you say, okay, everything that's Superbase out of the React. And then you say, okay, everything that's Next.js out of that. And maybe some of that overlaps and it's the same. But ultimately, you're trying to narrow it down. And then you say, these are the things that apply to what you're trying to accomplish. Because that's how things need to be categorized almost, because it's really hard. You just go down, it just says use OAuth or auth with something, because it could be using Superbase or some other auth tool. Okay, it's 4:58. Obviously, I did not get past the auth part, but I did make some progress, I think. I haven't quite got it working. I don't like working past 5 o'clock on Friday. There's reasons for that. But, and I'm not feeling pressed to do this, but I'm going to do more. I will do more. But I want to start my Friday. It's Friday, man. It's time for me to start the weekend, enjoy the night. My wife's actually off at a company party, so I think I'll just do something. Maybe some games, board games. You know what I haven't done yet, and I probably should, is I haven't played Marvel Snap yet. I think I'll probably switch over and do some mission clearing, because if I don't, I'm going to miss out on missions, because at 8 o'clock, I'm going to get 2 more, and I've already got at least 6. I may even have lost a couple already, because I don't know that I played last night. So I probably lost those. 2, 4, 6. I don't know that I was done clearing things before last night. Anyway. Okay, so that's it for now. Until next time. If you're watching this, leave me comments. Let me know what you think. And I'm always up for suggestions, directions. If you see me doing something that maybe I'm going off in the wrong direction, feel free to throw in your 2 cents. And I will continue to figure out how to move this forward. I will figure out how this auth thing works. And maybe if I figure it out, I will actually do my own video. It says, hey, using React, NextJS, and Superbase, this is how you do auth. Because I don't think I've seen that one out there yet. Not a modern one. Obviously, he's doing it, but he's doing it with the old 8-month-old helpers, which is not up to date. It's not modern. 8 months is not modern. That's obviously been deprecated already. Now we have to figure out the right way to do it using the current technology. I've pushed past the sign up part. Now I got to work out the email validation part as it comes back in, and then I'll do the login part, which is where you just log in with your already known information. Hopefully that'll go a little bit more direct or more straightforward, and then we will be good to go. I think I'll figure that out Monday. I'm pretty sure I'll figure it out. We're close, and each thing is a new step forward, right? Everything you learn is another step in the right direction. Till next time, take it easy.